Have you ever wondered if it's really possible for a man to think about you all day without you needing to say more than 3 words? It sounds almost impossible, right? In a world saturated with messages, notifications, and words that sometimes lose meaning, the idea that just a small verbal gesture can leave a deep mark on someone's mind seems like something out of a movie or a magic book. However, this possibility is not fantasy, but is supported by very serious scientific research, which reveals that words have a much greater power than we usually imagine. And we're not talking about common words or superficial phrases, but a precise combination of 3 words that can activate in the male brain a mental pattern that will make him think about you all day. To understand how this marvel works, it is necessary to know one of the most fascinating researchers in the field of neuroscience and consciousness psychology, Jacobo Grinberg. This Mexican scientist, internationally recognized for his work in neurophysiology, transcended conventional scientific limits by integrating spiritual and psychological concepts into his research on how the human mind connects with reality and with other minds. Grinberg's work is not only innovative, but also opens a door to a deeper understanding of how we interact on the most subtle level with those around us. Jacobo Grinberg proposed that consciousness is not simply an isolated phenomenon inside our brain, but part of a shared energetic field, a dynamic space where minds mutually influence each other through vibrations, intentions, and neural patterns that transcend the visible. According to his vision, when we communicate, we don't just exchange words, but create a connection that can resonate and persist in the other even long after the conversation has ended. This resonance is the foundation, the power of the 3 words we're going to explore today. The purpose of this video is to show you how, by applying this revolutionary perspective on consciousness and the power of the word, you can achieve that special person keeps your image and your energy present in his mind all day long. This is not about empty seduction tricks or emotional manipulation. It is a method based on science, conscious intention, and strategic management of language and personal energy. Throughout the video, we will break down the theoretical foundation behind this technique, how to prepare your mind to use it, and finally, I will reveal the specific 3 words that, when spoken with the right intention and context, activate that powerful effect in a man's mind. You're probably feeling very curious right now, and maybe some disbelief. What words can have that power? Why do exactly those 3 words work, and not others? Is there any scientific explanation supporting this claim, or is it just an urban myth? And most importantly, how can you, from your position, prepare your mental state so that the strategy works successfully? These are legitimate questions that we will answer in detail, without detours or empty promises. The secret is not only in the words, but in the combination of what you say, how you say it, and the energy you project when saying it. Grinberg taught us that conscious intention can modify the other's perception at the cerebral level, creating a kind of shared neural field that allows certain ideas and emotions to remain active in the other's mind. That is why these 3 words act as a mental trigger that, when used with the right emotional charge, unleash an internal process in the receiver that makes him think of you again and again throughout the day. Before we proceed, I want to pause to invite you to subscribe to this channel and activate the notification bell. This way, you will not only receive this kind of valuable content about relationships, mind, and consciousness, but also become part of a community interested in growing, learning, and applying scientific knowledge to improve their emotional and personal lives. The information we share here can transform not only how you relate to others, but also how you understand yourself. And subscribing is the best way not to miss any growth opportunity. This invitation is special because this content is designed to be practical and deep, with solid and verifiable foundations, and because many people like you are already applying these teachings with surprising results. Don't miss out and join us on this journey of discovery that leads us to better understand the power we have in our mind and our words. So, what can you expect in this video? We will begin by explaining in detail who Jacobo Grinberg was, and what his contribution was to the understanding of consciousness and intersubjectivity, concepts that are key to understanding why these 3 words have such impact. Then, we will review his most relevant experiment on perception and neural connection, where you'll discover how verbal intention can alter another person's mental field. We will also explore the psychology of invisible attraction, understanding how the male brain responds to certain stimuli, and why emotional congruence is so fundamental for any word or gesture to have true power. Finally, I will reveal those 3 words that, when pronounced with intention, and in the right context, can activate an almost hypnotic effect in a man's mind, leading him to think about you all day. I will show you practical examples of how to use them, how to care for tone, intention, and timing to maximize their power, and I will share real cases, fictionalized to protect identities, that illustrate their function according to Grinberg's observations. With this information in your hands, you will be ready to reprogram your presence in that special person's mind, leaving an energetic imprint that goes beyond words, supported by visualization techniques and habits to enhance your influence without needing to insist or control. It is important to highlight that this is not about manipulation, but a conscious, ethical, and respectful practice rooted in deep self-knowledge and sincere connection with the other. That is why, throughout the video, we will also discuss how to cultivate your own energy so that your presence is coherent and authentic, and so that the effect of those 3 words is lasting and healthy. Before continuing, remember again to subscribe and activate notifications, because the next sections contain essential knowledge you won't want to miss. Also, by doing so, you'll support the growth of this project and help us continue creating content that transforms lives. One of his most notable contributions was the formulation of the concept of the neural field as an energetic and dynamic space where consciousness manifests and connects. This idea challenged the traditional conception that viewed the brain as an isolated and autonomous structure, proposing instead that consciousness is a phenomenon occurring in a shared field extending beyond the physical limits of the body. This neural field, according to Grinberg, not only houses individual brain activities, but also enables connection between distinct minds, giving rise to what he called intersubjective connection. In other words, we are not confined within our own mind, but our consciousnesses intertwine and communicate through a common, invisible yet real space. The notion of intersubjective connection implies that a person's conscious experience can influence and be influenced by another's consciousness not only emotionally or socially, but also neurally and energetically. This opens a possibility that we can communicate and affect each other beyond visible words and gestures, through a subtle exchange occurring at the deep level of the mind. Grinberg used diverse methodologies to investigate this hypothesis, including experiments with advanced meditators, studies on extrasensory perception, and analysis of brain electrical patterns in social interaction situations. He found evidence supporting the idea that the neural field is not a closed phenomenon exclusive to each brain, but can expand and synchronize with that of other individuals. This synchronization, or neural resonance, allows certain experiences and emotions to be shared and amplified, facilitating communication beyond verbal language. For example, when 2 people are emotionally connected, their brains tend to show similar activity patterns, even when they are in different physical locations. For Grinberg, this phenomenon was not merely a scientific curiosity, but the basis to understand common phenomena like deep empathy, intuition, and social perception that often seem inexplicable. In his model, human consciousness is fundamentally relational and dynamic, sustained by constant interaction between intertwining neural fields. This paradigm challenges the classical idea of the self as a closed and separate entity, proposing a more holistic vision where individuality coexists with interconnection. Consciousness is thus understood as an emergent phenomenon born from the dialogue between minds, and can be modified by intention, attention, and the emotional state of each person. Moreover, this perspective opens fertile ground to explore how human relationships are built not only from visible words and actions, but also through this subtle energetic and neural communication. Therefore, the way we connect with others has a real impact on how our presence manifests in the minds of those around us. Grinberg's vision has profound implications for how we understand interpersonal relationships, attraction, and communication. It invites us to consider that the word is not simply a vehicle of information, but a trigger of energy and consciousness that can modify the shared mental field. In this way, the idea of the neural field and intersubjective connection becomes a scientific basis for many ancient and spiritual practices that speak of the energy field between people, which until now lacked clear scientific support. Grinberg succeeded in building a bridge between science and spirituality, showing that these worlds are not separate but intertwined in human experience. To illustrate this idea, we can think of everyday situations where we feel that someone reads our mind, or that we are in tune with another person without the need for words. These experiences, which seem magical or intuitive, can be explained by the synchronization of neural fields and intersubjective connection. Grinberg also explored how perception is not a passive process, but active and dynamic, where consciousness acts as a filter that modulates the reality we experience. This means that we not only receive information from the outside world, but that our mind participates in the very construction of that reality. This approach becomes especially relevant when we consider communication between people, as interaction is not limited to data transmission, but involves co-creation of shared experiences through the common neural field. Thus, our emotions, thoughts, and intentions have the power to influence the perception and mental state of the other. By understanding this dynamic, we can better grasp why certain encounters or words can leave lasting imprints in someone's mind, generating a constant mental presence that goes beyond superficial communication. In summary, Jacobo Grinberg invites us to think of consciousness not as a closed phenomenon, but as a shared energetic field that connects our minds in a deep and continuous way. This intersubjective connection is a key to understanding how intentions, emotions, and words can impact another person's mind, and how we can learn to manage this dynamic to strengthen our relationships. This revolutionary perspective, which combines neuroscience, psychology, and spirituality, lays a foundation for the techniques we will see in the following parts of this video, and which will allow you to activate in a man's mind a constant and significant presence through 3 specific words. But first, it is essential to fully understand these concepts to appreciate the depth and validity of what we are about to discover. After understanding the fundamental concept of the shared neural field and the intersubjective connection proposed by Jacobo Grinberg, a key question arises: how can words, those seemingly simple units of everyday language, influence that field and modify another person's perception, emotions, and thoughts? The answer lies in the intention behind each word we utter. For Grinberg, the literal or superficial meaning of language is not enough. The word itself is an energetic vehicle carrying a vibratory, emotional, and mental charge that has the potential to directly impact the neural field of the receiver. That charge, that conscious and authentic intention, is the essential factor that turns a simple phrase into a trigger capable of activating deep patterns within the other's mind. We can imagine words as stones thrown into a calm pond. The water represents the neural field, and the waves generated when the stone falls are the vibrations that propagate and influence the entire surface. However, not all stones generate the same waves. Their size, shape, weight, and throwing force determine the amplitude, intensity, and duration of those waves. Similarly, the intention with which we pronounce words determines the energetic effect they will have on the mental and emotional field of the person receiving them. When the intention behind the words is clear, coherent, and charged with genuine emotion, whether affection, respect, desire, trust, or any authentic feeling, the words acquire a special power that transcends their literal and superficial meaning. In contrast, if the intention is confused, ambiguous, or incongruent with the real emotional state of the sender, the energy those words carry dilutes, losing strength and even generating counterproductive effects. This phenomenon explains why, on many occasions, a simple phrase can make a great impression and remain resonating in our mind for hours or days, while other phrases, despite being similar in content, go unnoticed and without any impact. The crucial difference lies in the congruence between the sender's internal intention and the external way the message is expressed. Grinberg also emphasized that tone of voice, pause, rhythm, and intonation are integral parts of the energetic charge accompanying words. Nonverbal communication, that says subtle and frequently unconscious signals we transmit while speaking, can enhance or weaken the strength and authenticity of what we say. For this reason, a word pronounced with sincerity, calmness, and care can have a much deeper effect than a long, elaborate speech empty of real intention. By influencing the neural field of another person, this verbal intention activates a series of internal processes in their mind and emotions, modifying their mood, awakening memories, activating associations and sensations that can endure beyond the specific moment of communication. In this way, the person not only hears the words but also feels them and integrates them into their conscious and emotional experience, strengthening the mental and affective presence of the sender within their mind. This impact becomes even more powerful when there is a prior connection or an emotional context that facilitates the other person's openness and receptivity. Clear, genuine, and positive intention then acts as an energetic channel connecting two minds at a deep level, allowing the verbal message to transcend the barriers of common language and establish a lasting mental bond. Understanding this dynamic is fundamental to appreciating how the power of the 3 specific words we will explore later works. It is not simply about repeating a phrase, but projecting an authentic and energy-charged intention that resonates in the other's neural field, activating in their mind a constant and effective presence toward you. But how can we prepare our mind so that this intentional projection is effective? What must we do to train ourselves and emit these words with the right energy at the right moment, and with the internal attitude that maximizes their impact? The first step is to develop reflective awareness, a skill Grinberg considered key for the conscious modulation of one's own mind and interaction with others. Reflective awareness consists of being fully aware of our internal states, thoughts, emotions, intentions in the present moment without identifying with or judging them. It is observing clearly what happens within us, so we can direct our attention and energy toward the intention we want to project. By cultivating this capacity, we manage to separate authentic intention from any mental or emotional interference, such as fear, insecurity, anxiety, or negative expectations. This allows us to generate and project a pure, focused, and coherent intention, which is more likely to resonate and connect with the neural field of the other person. Additionally, mental preparation involves training creative visualization, a powerful tool to synchronize our mind, emotions, and body with the desired intention. Visualizing not only the moment we will say the words, but also the effect we want to generate in the other person's mind and heart helps align our energy and reinforce the message. This visualization exercise is much more than fantasy or illusion. It is supported by numerous neuroscientific studies, showing how imagination activates brain regions similar to those used during actual action. Therefore, practicing conscious visualization strengthens neural connections and prepares our energetic field to emit words with greater power and coherence. Grinberg also highlighted the importance of emotional state as an amplifier or limiter of this intentional projection. Emotions like confidence, serenity, openness, and inner security amplify the intensity of the intention and the energy we carry in our words. Conversely, states such as nervousness, doubt, insecurity, or resentment can interfere with this energy and weaken the impact we seek. That is why working on emotional balance is a fundamental part of preparation for this type of deep and effective communication. Techniques like conscious breathing, mindfulness, and self-compassion can help stabilize our emotions and create a favorable internal space to project intention with clarity and authenticity. A positive mental state aligned with our intention not only favors that words are heard, but also felt, lived, and integrated into the other's neural and emotional field. This generates a kind of energetic footprint or imprint that remains active and present even after verbal communication has ended, prolonging the sender's mental presence in the receiver's mind. Finally, it is important to remember that constant practice and patience are indispensable to master this skill. Like any human capacity, learning to project verbal intention effectively requires training, self-knowledge, and commitment. It is not about mechanically repeating a script or formula, but developing a genuine connection with ourselves and with the person we address, allowing communication to emerge from an authentic space. This process also involves respecting our own and the other's timing, accepting that deep connection and mental influence are not achieved by force or urgency, but through harmony, patience, and mutual respect. Intention must spring from a space of authenticity, and not from impulsive or forced need. In summary, preparing the mind to activate the powerful effect of 3 words means developing reflective awareness, training creative visualization, cultivating a positive and coherent emotional state, and practicing congruence between internal intention and external expression. When these conditions are met, the words we pronounce transform into energetic triggers capable of influencing the other's neural field, activating a constant, effective, and deep mental presence. This is the first indication of how we can manage our energy in communication to make someone think of us authentically and sustainably. But this is only the foundation, a starting point that opens the door to deepen this practice and use it with wisdom and effectiveness. It is essential to understand that this ability does not seek to manipulate or control, but to establish a genuine and respectful bond based on authentic connection and conscious intention. By mastering this form of energetic communication, we can strengthen our relationships and create deeper and more meaningful connections. Thus, with a scientific and practical basis, We are ready to continue exploring how to apply these ideas to activating the mind of that special person of constant and sincere presence through a particular combination of words and energy. But first, it is essential to continue cultivating our awareness and internal preparation so that the impact is real, powerful, and lasting. Attraction, that fascinating and complex phenomenon that guides much of our human relationships, is not a completely conscious process. Although we tend to believe that we choose the people we like for rational reasons, the fact is that a huge amount of what attracts us operates at deep and unconscious levels of our mind. These invisible mechanisms are what really shape our preferences, desires, and effective decisions, and they work almost without us noticing. From an evolutionary perspective, these unconscious forces are designed to favor survival and reproduction, guiding us toward those who possess traits that enhance health, safety, and compatibility. However, nowadays, these signals continue to activate and condition how we feel attracted, but within a much more complex and symbolic social and cultural context. In neurobiological terms, the brain has specific circuits responsible for detecting and processing stimuli related to attraction. These circuits operate quickly and without conscious intervention, evaluating aspects such as tone of voice, gaze, facial expressions, body language, and even body odor. All this contributes to generating an immediate impression that influences our subsequent emotions and behaviors. A key element in this dynamic is verbal communication and its impact on the brain, particularly the male brain. Although words are a conscious tool for expression, often their effect transcends a rational plane, touching deep areas of the brain that regulate emotions, memory, and motivation. When a man hears certain words or phrases containing implicit messages of care, interest, or connection, his brain not only interprets the content, but also responds emotionally and chemically. This happens because those words activate neural circuits associated with pleasure, reward, and attachment, releasing substances like dopamine and oxytocin that strengthen the feeling of well-being and effective bonding. Neuroscience studies have shown that regions such as the limbic system, responsible for processing emotions, and the prefrontal cortex, involved in decision-making, activate in response to emotionally charged verbal stimuli. This joint activation creates an integrative effect that can modify mood and mental disposition toward the message sender. Moreover, the way the male brain processes words is influenced by evolutionary and cultural patterns that condition its sensitivity to certain types of messages. For example, words that convey security, respect, and admiration tend to resonate more deeply, as they are associated with values that promote trust and stability in relationships. Likewise, studies show that the tone and rhythm of the voice when pronouncing these words are also fundamental to maximizing their impact. A warm, calm, and sincere tone can enhance the emotional load of the message, facilitating the brain's response with greater openness and receptivity. This process explains why certain words or phrases, spoken with intention and in the proper context, can remain in the male mind for hours or even days, generating a constant mental presence and sustained effective bond. The male brain also tends to seek patterns and signals indicating interest and availability, and words play a crucial role in sending those signals. When messages suggesting care and connection are perceived, neurochemical mechanisms activate that reinforce the desire to maintain contact and emotional closeness. It is important to highlight that the impact of words does not depend solely on their literal content, but also on the personal and emotional history of each individual. Previous experiences, traumas, learnings, and expectations shape how a man interprets and responds to certain verbal expressions. Therefore, although general patterns exist, the effectiveness of a message is also influenced by individuality and the context in which communication occurs. Nevertheless, there are strategies based on knowledge of these neurobiological processes that can increase the likelihood of generating a positive and lasting emotional response. These strategies involve choosing words that connect with deep needs, such as feeling valued, understood, and respected. When we manage to convey these sensations through language, we create a direct bridge to the receiver's subconscious and emotional system, generating an attraction that goes beyond the surface. The impact of words is even greater when combined with coherent body expression, eye contact, and an appropriate emotional environment. These elements form a multisensory experience that the brain integrates to form a global and deep impression. For example, a word said with a genuine smile and direct gaze can activate brain circuits related to attachment much more intensely than the same word said distantly or mechanically. Coherence between what is said and how it is said is fundamental for the message to have the necessary strength to remain in the mind and heart. Thus, words not only transmit information, but are vehicles to influence the other's internal state, modulating their emotions, thoughts, and memories. This ability makes language a powerful tool to build and maintain attraction and mental presence. Likewise, the repetition of meaningful words or phrases can strengthen these neural connections, making it easier for the person to associate them with positive sensations and an emotional bond. This explains why certain messages or words stay engraved in the mind and generate an accumulative effect that enhances attraction. Knowing how words impact the male brain offers a framework to design more effective and authentic communications that activate not only attention, but also emotion and memory. Learning to use this knowledge with ethics and responsibility can transform the way we relate and connect with those who interest us. Furthermore, understanding that attraction works on an unconscious level frees us from the pressure to seek immediate or superficial results, allowing us to focus on building genuine and sustained connections based on emotional and neural resonance. Ultimately, the science behind attraction and the impact of words reveals an invisible world that powerfully influences our relationships, inviting us to explore new ways of communicating that respect and enhance this depth. Emotional congruence is an essential and often underestimated factor in the communication and attraction process. It refers to the harmony or coherence between what we feel internally and what we express externally, whether through words, gestures, or attitudes. When this alignment exists, the message we transmit is perceived as authentic and credible, generating trust and deep connection in the receiver. In contrast, emotional incongruence, for example, saying something with positive words but with a cold tone or a distant facial expression, causes distrust, confusion, and rejection, even if the verbal content is appropriate. The human mind, especially in the context of effective relationships, is highly sensitive to these nonverbal and emotional cues. Our brain constantly evaluates not only what is said but how it is said, seeking patterns of coherence that indicate security and sincerity. When it detects congruence, a state of openness and receptivity is activated, facilitating that the verbal message penetrates at a deeper level and generates a positive emotional response. This process is especially relevant in the male brain, which tends to respond more intensely to congruent emotional signals as signs of genuine interest and commitment. Therefore, emotional congruence not only amplifies the power of words, but also reinforces mental and affective presence, making the person keep thinking of the one who transmits that message with authenticity. Emotional congruence also acts as a filter that selects which messages will be accepted and which will be rejected or ignored. Incongruent messages are often processed unconsciously as a warning signal, activating defensive mechanisms that block emotional and mental connection. This explains why many times, despite verbally expressing positive feelings, if emotional coherence does not exist, the connection is not established or is quickly lost. Cultivating emotional congruence involves developing a high degree of self-knowledge and emotional regulation. It is necessary to identify and understand our own feelings in order to express them honestly and coherently. It also requires being attentive to how our emotions manifest in our body language and tone of voice. This practice is fundamental to establishing authentic and lasting bonds, because only when we are genuine do we generate the necessary trust of the other person to receive us and connect with us at a deep level. In the context of using specific words to generate mental presence in someone, emotional congruence is a key that transforms a phrase into an effective trigger. It is not enough to pronounce the correct words. They must be accompanied by a true and visible emotion that supports their intention. Without this coherence, the words lose their strength and become ineffective. Emotional congruence is also related to the ability to listen and respond with empathy. Showing that we understand and feel what the other experiences creates a space of security and openness where words can resonate more deeply. This dynamic facilitates the creation of a shared neural field, enhancing intersubjective connection and continuous mental presence. Moreover, emotional congruence influences effective memory, that is, how experiences and messages are stored in the brain and later retrieved. Messages accompanied by authentic emotions are more likely to be remembered and generate a repeated response over time, which explains why certain people remain in our thoughts without constant contact. On the other hand, Emotional incongruence tend to fragment and weaken these memories, causing impressions to fade quickly. Practicing emotional congruence also means being aware of one's own limitations and vulnerabilities, and allowing these to be genuinely reflected in communication. This transparency strengthens the bond because shared vulnerability creates intimacy and trust. The person who shows authenticity, with their strengths and weaknesses, invites the other to open up and connect on a deeper level, moving away from masks or superficial roles that prevent true emotional encounter. Another key aspect of emotional congruence is the ability to manage and express difficult emotions, such as frustration, sadness, or fear, without falling into overexposure or disqualifying the other. Showing these emotions in a balanced and responsible way contributes to making communication more human and real, facilitating construction of relationships based on acceptance and mutual respect. In the context of the mental influence we seek to achieve with the 3 words, this ability to express emotions with coherence also makes a difference. A message loaded with authentic emotion becomes a more potent stimulus, capable of penetrating more deeply into the mind and creating a lasting resonance. It is essential to highlight that emotional congruence does not mean perfection or absence of conflicts, but the willingness to be honest about what we feel and to express those emotions in a way that the other can understand us and feel us as genuine. This openness creates a safe space where connection can grow and consolidate, maintaining sustained mental presence. Congruence is also linked to bodily congruence, that is, body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and words forming a coherent set that transmits a unified message. When there is a disconnection among these elements, the receiver detects incongruences that generate uncertainty and distrust, reducing communication effectiveness. From a neurobiological point of view, this multisensory coherence facilitates the brain to integrate information harmoniously, strengthening emotional impression and interpersonal connection. This multisensory integration is one of the foundations explaining why emotional congruence amplifies the impact of words and favors constant mental presence. Likewise, emotional congruence influences how emotions spread between people. When someone transmits authentic and coherent emotions, these tend to be received and mirrored by the other, creating an effect of emotional synchronization. This tuning not only strengthens the affective bond, but also activates the shared neural connection that Jacobo Grinberg described as fundamental for the intersubjective experience. Practically speaking, cultivating emotional congruence involves constant self-observation and regulation. Techniques like meditation, mindfulness, therapy, and practicing assertive communication are valuable tools to develop this capacity. As we learn to identify our emotions, express them honestly, and listen empathetically to others, we improve the quality of our relationships and the impact of our communication. For those seeking to activate constant mental presence in a man's mind through strategic words, understanding and applying emotional congruence is fundamental. Only when words are spoken from a place of sincerity and emotional coherence can they reach the strength needed to influence the other person's neural and emotional field. This principle is a powerful reminder that authenticity is a foundation of any true connection. There is no magic formula that works if not backed by deep congruence between what we feel, think, and express. Therefore, the path to meaningful and lasting relationships involves cultivating this internal and external harmony. In conclusion, the role of emotional congruence is vital for any word, gesture, or action to have a real and lasting impact on another person's mind and heart. It is the element that supports authenticity, trust, and deep connection, and that allows mental presence to remain constant and meaningful. By integrating this understanding with knowledge about verbal intention and the neural field, we can develop a way of communicating that not only attracts but also builds solid and authentic bonds. This congruence is the essence of the power possessed by the 3 specific words we will reveal later, since only expressed with emotional coherence do they activate the desired effect in the male mind. Therefore, working on emotional congruence is preparing to create true connections based on authenticity and sincerity, which transcend the superficial and settle in the deep realm of affection and mind. After having explored in depth the theoretical foundations about consciousness, the neural field, the influence of verbal intention, and the vital role of emotional congruence, it is time to reveal those special 3 words that, when used correctly, have the power to activate in a man's mind a constant and meaningful presence. These words are not an esoteric secret nor a magic formula. They are simple expressions but charged with deep meaning and a particular energy that will resonate in his mind and heart. The 3 words are, "I trust you," although they may seem simple and everyday. These words possess an extraordinary emotional and psychological impact when pronounced with sincerity and internal coherence. Essentially, "I trust you" conveys a declaration of security, respect, and openness, touching fundamental aspects of the human being and their need to feel valued and recognized. First, the word trust is one of the most powerful expressions in interpersonal relationships. Trust is the foundation on which solid and lasting bonds are built. By saying "I trust," we send a message that removes barriers, reduces uncertainty, and opens a path toward a genuine and deep connection. When a man hears that someone trusts him, he does not just receive a compliment or a kind phrase. He perceives an invitation to be authentic, responsible, and committed. Trust acts as a bridge that connects 2 internal worlds, allowing vulnerability and sincerity to emerge more easily. Furthermore, this word activates in his mind neural circuits related to security and attachment. Trust generates a sense of well-being and reduces anxiety, facilitating that the receiver maintains a constant mental presence toward the one who offers it. The second component functions as a link that focuses and directs trust toward the specific person, establishing a direct and personalized bond. It is not a generic or abstract trust, but clear and explicit declaration addressed to him, reinforcing his sense of value and relevance. Finally, the word "you" closes a message with an intimate and personal focus. This simple word turns a statement into a direct connection, making the receiver's mind focus on the relationship they have with the one who utters these words. By including it explicitly, an effective and cognitive bond is created that endures in their thought. Together, these 3 words form a complete message that communicates acceptance, security, and openness, key elements that generate a strong emotional bond and sustained mental presence. This phrase can transform not only a man's perception of the relationship, but also his willingness to remain emotionally and mentally connected. Now then, how can this powerful expression be applied in daily life to maximize its effect? Next, we will share practical and everyday examples illustrating how "I trust you" can be integrated into various situations, generating a profound and positive impact. Imagine a conversation where a man is facing an important decision or a situation that causes him insecurity. Saying "I trust you" at that moment can provide invaluable emotional support. This affirmation acts as an anchor of security that allows him to feel supported and capable, reducing his doubts and strengthening his self-esteem. For example, if a man expresses concern about a work project or personal goal, sincerely responding "I trust you" is more than words. It is an act of emotional surrender that can boost his motivation and commitment. This phrase acts as a reminder that he is not alone and that someone believes in his ability, which in turn generates a lasting affective and mental connection. In another situation, when a man shares a vulnerable aspect of himself, whether an insecurity, fear, or difficult experience, hearing "I trust you" can create a safe space for openness and intimacy. The phrase acts as an emotional shield that protects and validates, encouraging the relationship to advance toward deeper levels of understanding and empathy. In the context of daily routine, integrating this expression in small interactions can change the dynamic of the relationship. For example, when saying goodbye before a meeting or at the end of an important conversation, saying "I trust you" can leave a mental imprint that will accompany the man throughout the day, reinforcing the connection and effective presence. Another practical example occurs in conflict or disagreement situations. Instead of focusing on differences or reproaches, expressing "I trust you" can be a bridge that opens a possibility of reconciliation and understanding. This phrase communicates that, despite difficulties, there is a solid base of trust that sustains a relationship and allows obstacles to be overcome. It is also important to highlight that "I trust you" can be used at different levels of the relationship, from newly established bonds to deep and consolidated relationships. In each case, its impact will vary according to the context and shared history, but will always maintain its power to activate mental and emotional presence. Furthermore, this expression can be combined with gestures, looks, or actions that reinforce its meaning, creating a multisensory experience that the receiver's brain integrates as a message of care and commitment. For example, saying "I trust you" while holding sincere eye contact or offering a hug can enhance the effect, making the phrase resonate more intensely in the male mind. It is essential that this phrase is not used mechanically or without conviction, as it would lose its strength and could generate distrust. The key is to pronounce it with genuine intention, supported by emotional congruence and authenticity, elements we have explored in previous sections. Also, "I trust you" can be adapted to different communication styles, always maintaining its essence. For example, in a relationship where brief and direct messages predominate, this phrase can function as a powerful reminder. In more formal or structured contexts, it can be integrated into meaningful conversations to strengthen the bond. Let's look at some specific examples to illustrate how to use this expression at different moments. 1. Supporting decisions. A man expresses doubts about a career change. Responding with, "I trust you," can give him the emotional push he needs to move forward confidently. 2. Moments of vulnerability. When sharing a fear or insecurity, hearing "I trust you" validates his feelings and strengthens mutual trust. 3. Reconciliation after a conflict. Instead of insisting on disagreement, saying, "I trust you," opens the door to forgiveness and renewal of the bond. 4. Daily reinforcement. Saying "I trust you" in messages or everyday encounters keeps the connection and mental presence alive, reminding him he is valued and respected. 5. Fostering autonomy. This phrase also communicates respect for the other person's independence and ability, which is vital for balance in any relationship. 6. Expression of admiration. Beyond trust, these words convey admiration for the person and their qualities, strengthening self-esteem and emotional willingness. In each of these examples, "I trust you" acts as an emotional anchor that, by remaining present in the man's mind, generates a constant presence translated into thoughts, feelings, and behaviors linked to the relationship and the person who utters the phrase. This sustained effect occurs because trust activates circuits related to reward and security in the male brain, creating a positive mental experience that invites repetition and prolonged attention. Thus, without the need for additional words, these 3 words manage to keep the connection and attraction alive in a subtle yet effective way. "I trust you" is a phrase loaded with emotional and cognitive power that can transform the dynamics of any relationship. Its simplicity hides a depth that, when used with intention and authenticity, can activate a constant, effective, and meaningful presence in the male mind. This knowledge opens a path for each person to build stronger and more authentic bonds, using conscious language as a tool to cultivate trust and mental connection. Learning to integrate these words into everyday communication is a step toward healthier, longer-lasting, and more satisfying relationships. If so far you've been surprised by the power that just 3 words can have to maintain mental presence in someone special, I invite you to like this video and share it with someone who may benefit from this information. Also, don't forget to leave a comment below telling me which of the examples mentioned you find most useful or in what situation you would like to use these words. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet and activate the notification bell so you don't miss the upcoming sections where we will deepen how to use tone, intention, and the perfect timing to maximize the impact of these 3 words. Your participation is key for this community to grow and for us to continue sharing valuable content. Once we know the 3 fundamental words and understand their power to activate a constant mental presence in the male mind, it is crucial to understand that it is not enough to just say them. How they are said, the intention accompanying them, and the moment they are expressed are determining factors for achieving the desired effect. In this part, we will delve into how to manage these elements to maximize impact and consolidate connection. Tone of voice is perhaps the first perceptible element that makes a difference in the reception of these words. A warm, calm, and sincere tone communicates security and authenticity. When "I trust you" is said with a tone that conveys respect and affection, the receiving brain interprets it as a reliable signal, activating centers of reward and attachment. In contrast, a monotonous, hurried, or forced tone can generate doubts or even rejection, as the unconscious detects a lack of emotional congruence. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to tone modulation, seeking that it is natural and reflects a genuine feeling to be conveyed. It is not about pretending or exaggerating, but about connecting with the internal emotion that supports those words and allowing that energy to flow through the voice. Intention, for its part, is the invisible engine that drives the energetic effect of the words. Pronouncing "I trust you" without authentic intention is like throwing a stone without force. It may touch the surface but will not generate significant waves. The intention must arise from a space of inner truth, a real commitment to the message being communicated. To cultivate this intention, it is necessary before speaking to connect with oneself and with the person to whom the message is addressed. This implies a process of reflective awareness and mental preparation, where the positive impact one wishes to generate is visualized and the emotion is aligned with the verbal expression. This alignment strengthens a resonance between sender and receiver, facilitating that the message penetrates the neuronal field deeply. Timing, or the right moment, is another essential factor. Not all situations are conducive to expressing "I trust you." The intention may be sincere, but pronounced in an inappropriate context, it may lose strength or even cause confusion. For example, during intense conflict or when the other person is very emotionally upset, these words might not be received positively. Identifying the right moment requires sensitivity and empathy, as well as a good reading of the other's emotional and mental state. Ideal moments are usually when the person is open to communication, receptive, and in a state of calm or vulnerability. It may also be useful to use them to reinforce positive situations, such as before an important decision, after sharing an intimate experience, or at the end of a meaningful conversation. Knowing how to wait and choose a precise instant to say these words exponentially increases their impact, as the receiving brain associates them with positive and relevant emotional experiences, consolidating the desired mental presence. Now, to illustrate how these elements manifest in practice, let's review some cases based on observations by Jacobo Grinberg, fictionalized to protect identities but faithful to principles he studied. Case 1. Luis and Mariana. Luis was going through a difficult moment at work, full of insecurities and doubts about his performance. Mariana, aware of his state, decided to take advantage of a quiet moment after dinner to approach him. With a soft and loving tone, she said to him, "Luis, I trust you." These words, pronounced sincerely and at the right moment, had an unexpected effect. Luis felt a deep calm and a renewed impulse of confidence. The phrase acted as an emotional anchor that accompanied him throughout the week, helping him face challenges with greater security. Case 2. Andres and Sofia. Andres used to emotionally close off when he felt vulnerable, which made communication with Sofia difficult. In a conversation where Andres shared his fears for the first time, Sofia held his gaze, showed empathy, and finally said with firm but loving tone, "I trust you." This moment marked a before and after in their relationship. The congruence between her words, tone, and body language created a shared neural field where Andres felt safe to open up more, strengthening the bond and mental presence between them. Case 3. Carlos and Elena. During an argument over a disagreement, Carlos felt the relationship was at risk. Instead of continuing the conflict, Elena waited until both were calm and said, "I trust you," looking Carlos in the eyes. This simple phrase, in the right context and with a sincere intention to reconcile, disarmed tensions and opened the door for more honest and open communication. Carlos not only remembered those words throughout the day, but also began to strengthen his emotional commitment to Elena. Case 4. Javier and Paula. Javier and Paula had a consolidated relationship of trust, but wanted to keep the connection alive despite daily occupations. Paula began sending brief, everyday messages with the words, "I trust you," accompanied by a loving emoji. These small reminders acted as emotional anchors, generating a constant mental presence in Javier, who felt valued and motivated to respond with the same authenticity. The conscious and affectionate repetition of these words reinforced the connection even at a distance. These cases exemplify how the conscious use of tone, intention, and timing can transform 3 words into a powerful mental and emotional trigger. They are practical manifestations of how Grinberg's theories apply in real life to strengthen mental presence and authentic attraction. Remember that the effectiveness of these words does not depend on quantity or complexity, but on the quality of communication and the bond built through them. Simplicity combined with authenticity is the key to generating a deep and lasting impact. Thus, when you say, "I trust you," with a warm and sincere tone, with a genuine intention to support and connect, and at the opportune moment, you are sending a message that activates neural circuits associated with security, attachment, and reward. This message installs itself in the male mind, generating recurrent thoughts, positive emotions, and a constant mental presence. Mastering the art of using the right tone, intention, and timing to express these 3 words opens a path toward more authentic, meaningful, and sustainable relationships. Moreover, these elements enhance the intrinsic power of the phrase, ensuring that it is not only said but also felt and lived, creating a connection that transcends a verbal and settles into shared energy field. In the context of human relationships and deep mental connection, the idea of leaving an energetic imprint represents a powerful and transformative concept. Beyond words and visible gestures, the energetic imprint is that subtle and lasting presence that remains in another person's mental and emotional field, influencing their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors even in physical absence. Leaving this imprint is not a fortuitous or accidental act. It results from a combination of conscious and unconscious factors that reflect who we are, how we present ourselves, and the quality of our personal energy. It is about imprinting on the other a vibration that connects them to our essence, making our presence perceived as meaningful, authentic, and valuable. To better understand this phenomenon, it is helpful to think of energy as an invisible field surrounding each person, made up of emotions, thoughts, intentions, and moods. This energy not only affects ourselves, but also interacts with the field of those around us, creating a dynamic network of influences and resonances. When we interact with someone, our energy mixes and synchronizes with that person's, generating an impression that can be brief or lasting depending on the intensity and quality of the connection. Leaving an energetic imprint implies that this impression is strong and coherent enough to remain in the other's mental field, keeping our presence alive even at a distance. One of the fundamental characteristics for leaving this imprint is authenticity. People can perceive, consciously or unconsciously, when someone acts in the truth of their being or when they're showing a mask or an artificial version of themselves. Authenticity generates an energetic vibration that resonates deeply in the other's field, facilitating a sincere and lasting connection. This authenticity manifests in the congruence between what we think, feel, and express, creating a coherent and stable energetic field. When this internal alignment exists, the energy we emit is clear, strong, and reliable, making the imprint we leave easier to recognize and remember by the other person. Another important aspect is the intention that drives our interaction. When we approach someone with a positive, genuine, and open intention, that energy is transmitted through our words, gestures, and presence, generating a favorable impression that strengthens the energetic imprint. Conversely, if the intention is confusing, selfish, or manipulative, the energy fragments and the imprint weakens or can even become negative. Emotion also plays a central role in creating this imprint. Intense and authentic emotions, such as joy, gratitude, admiration, or love, generate energy waves that amplify resonance with the other person. By sharing these emotions sincerely, we leave a mark that activates positive memories and sensations in their mind and heart. Additionally, mindfulness and conscious presence during interaction are key elements. When we are truly present, listening and connecting without distractions or judgments, our energy concentrates and focuses on the other, enhancing creation of a significant energetic imprint. Authentic presence conveys respect and appreciation, essential elements of the impression we leave to be positive and lasting. It is also important to consider that the energetic imprint is not limited to long moments or deep conversations. Even in brief, everyday encounters, it is possible to leave a powerful impression if we manage to be present, authentic, and convey a clear intention. Sometimes, a simple gesture, a sincere look, or a timely word can create an energetic resonance that remains active long after. The quality of our personal energy, understood as the emotional and mental state we find ourselves in, directly influences the ability to leave this imprint. When we are balanced, confident, and connected with ourselves, our energy is cleaner, coherent, and attractive. Conversely, when we are scattered, anxious, or negative, our imprint weakens and may generate rejection or disconnection. This leads us to the importance of emotional and mental self-care as a basis for projecting favorable energy. Practicing habits that strengthen our internal well-being, such as reflection, emotional management, and seeking meaning, allows us to radiate a vibration that facilitates the creation of positive imprints in others. Respect for the boundaries and rhythms of others is also fundamental. Authentic energetic imprint does not seek to impose or control, but to offer a space of openness and safety where the other person can receive and connect freely. Respecting this space contributes to the impression we leave being welcomed and sustained over time. In the realm of attraction and effective relationships, leaving an energetic imprint is a form of presence that transcends verbal communication and settles on a deeper level. This presence generates in the other's mind a vivid memory, a warm sensation, and an emotional anchor that favors constant thought and effective closeness. This imprint does not depend solely on the frequency of encounters or words spoken, but on the quality of energy transmitted in each interaction. Hence, sometimes people who see each other or speak little can maintain a strong mental presence in each other's lives precisely because the energy they left was authentic and meaningful. On the other hand, it is important to understand that the energetic imprint can have both positive and negative effects depending on the quality of energy emitted. Therefore, being aware of what we transmit and taking responsibility for our vibration is a fundamental step to building healthy and enriching relationships. To leave a positive energetic imprint, it is advisable to cultivate empathy, compassion, and genuine love toward oneself and others. These emotions raise our energetic frequency and facilitate that the connection is established on a deep and lasting level. It is essential to recognize that leaving an energetic imprint is a dynamic and mutual process. It is not only what we emit, but also the resonance generated with the other's field. This interaction creates an energetic framework that strengthens with each authentic encounter, enriching the relationship and consolidating the shared mental presence. To enhance the energetic imprint we leave on others and strengthen constant mental presence, there are specific techniques and habits that can help us work from within, refining our energy and how we project ourselves. Two especially effective approaches are visualization techniques based on Syntergia and habits that amplify our influence beyond words. Visualization is a powerful tool that uses the mind's natural capacity to imagine and create internal scenarios that influence our emotional and physiological state. When practiced with intention, visualization allows us to align our energy, reinforce positive intention, and activate internal resources that improve our connections with others. Based on the concept of Syntergia, the harmonious interaction of different elements that produces a result greater than the sum of its parts, visualization applied to human connection seeks to create mental images that integrate emotions, intentions, and bodily sensations into a coherent and potent whole. This approach allows the energy we project to be not only strong, but also balanced and resonant. A basic technique consists of closing the eyes and vividly visualizing the person in question, imagining a warm, bright light flowing from our heart to theirs, creating a channel of positive energy and trust. In doing so, sensations of calm, security, and affection should be incorporated, allowing these emotions to permeate every mental image. This exercise activates brain areas related to empathy, attention, and emotional regulation, facilitating that our energetic field synchronizes with the others. With regular practice, this energetic Syntergia strengthens the imprint we leave, making it more palpable and lasting. Another variant is to imagine specific situations where we pronounce the three key words, "I trust you," with the proper intention, tone, and timing. Visualizing the positive reception of these words and the emotional response of the other helps prepare our mind to express them authentically and effectively in reality. Additionally, these techniques foster self-confidence and mental clarity, reducing doubts and fears that may interfere with emotional congruence and the quality of the energy we project. Thus, visualization based on Syntergia not only influences the other, but also strengthens our own internal state, facilitating more genuine connections. Beyond these specific visualization techniques, the way we live and present ourselves daily has a profound impact on the energy we radiate and, therefore, on the imprint we leave. This leads us to the habits we can cultivate to amplify our influence without always resorting to words. One of the most effective habits is cultivating mindfulness. Staying present and aware in every interaction allows our energy to concentrate and project with greater force, avoiding internal distractions that dilute our energetic imprint. Practicing mindfulness helps us be fully available for the other person, which increases the quality and depth of the connection. Active listening is another fundamental habit to amplify our influence without words. Truly listening to the other, without anticipating responses or judging, sends signals of respect and appreciation that strengthen the connection and energetic resonance. This sincere attention is perceived and remembered, creating a silent but deep impact that leaves a lasting impression. Coherent body language also plays a crucial role. Open gestures, relaxed postures, and sincere eye contact communicate confidence and security, reinforcing emotional congruence and facilitating the clear and effective transmission of positive energy. A genuine smile, a slight lean toward the other person, or a posture denoting openness can generate a magnetic effect that attracts and maintains attention without needing words. Maintaining a positive and balanced attitude, even in difficult moments, contributes to radiating energy that attracts and sustains. Calmness, patience, and authenticity are qualities that amplify our presence without needing verbal expression, leaving a lasting imprint felt in the environment. This positive energy acts like a magnet that draws people and generates a favorable feel for healthy and meaningful relationships. Body care also influences our personal energy and, consequently, the imprint we leave. Healthy eating, regular exercise, and adequate rest keep our energetic field vibrant and stable, which reflects in the quality of our relationships and the impression we make. Feeling physically well enhances confidence and security, essential elements to project a strong and authentic presence. Another habitual practice that amplifies influence without words is expressing gratitude and recognition toward the people we interact with. Expressing thanks, even internally or through small gestures like a smile or a look, strengthens connection and leaves a positive impression implanted in the other's mind and heart. This energy of appreciation generates a virtuous cycle where reciprocity and good spirits multiply. Additionally, conscious silence can be a powerful resource to amplify influence without words. Knowing when to keep silent, accompanying the other with our presence without filling every space with unnecessary words, create an atmosphere of respect and depth that strengthens the energetic imprint. Silence, when authentic and full of intention, can communicate more than many words and generate an immediate and sincere connection. Together, these techniques and habits form an integrated system that enhances our ability to leave a significant energetic imprint. By implementing them consistently and consciously, we not only improve our relationships, but also develop greater mastery over our own energy and presence. This internal and conscious work is the foundation upon which the power of the three words and their impact on the male mind rest. When our energy is aligned, our intention clear, and our presence authentic, any verbal or nonverbal communication becomes a powerful trigger for connection and attraction. Thus, through the constant practice of these techniques and habits, we can cultivate more genuine, deep, and satisfying relationships, leaving a lasting impression that transcends time and space. It is important to remember that amplifying our influence without words is not about manipulating or controlling, but offering an authentic presence that inspires trust, respect, and closeness. This influence based on sincerity and self-care is what generates healthy and meaningful bonds, nourishing our emotional well-being and that of those around us. To truly understand how we can influence and leave a deep imprint on another person's mind and heart, it is essential to look beyond words and delve into the vast realm of nonverbal communication. The theory of syntergia, developed by neurophysiologist Jacobo Grinberg, offers us a revolutionary framework to comprehend this invisible yet fundamental dimension of human interaction. Syntergia, in its essence, proposes that reality, including our conscious experience, emerges from the interaction and harmony among different elements and levels of information. In the context of interpersonal communication, this theory invites us to see the message not as one-dimensional, but as a result of a dynamic synergy among words, emotions, gestures, bodily energy, and the very presence of the being. The power of nonverbal communication lies precisely in this capacity to convey deep and subtle meanings that often surpass what is expressed with words. Posture, facial expression, eye contact, breathing, and body movement generate signals that our brain interprets quickly and often unconsciously. These signals build a parallel narrative that can confirm, contradict, or enrich the verbal message. Grinberg emphasized that synergy in communication occurs when all these elements, what we say, how we say it, how we feel, and how we physically present ourselves, are in coherence. When this alignment exists, a strong and coherent energy field is created that not only impacts the receiver consciously, but also generates resonance in the shared neuronal field, activating a lasting imprint. A fascinating aspect within this nonverbal communication is microexpressions, small facial expressions, involuntary movements, or subtle gestures that reflect authentic emotions and thoughts. These gestures may last just fractions of a second, but carry a significant charge that the observer perceives and processes even without realizing it. Microexpressions act as windows to inner truth, revealing emotional congruence or incongruence. For example, a smile that doesn't reach the eyes may indicate falseness, while a slight mouth contraction can reflect doubt or insecurity. The ability to recognize and consciously use these microexpressions can enhance communication quality and the strength of the energetic imprint we leave. Silence is also a powerful component of nonverbal communication. In many cultures and relationships, silence is not emptiness or absence, but space filled with meaning and presence. Silence can express respect, waiting, reflection, or support, and can be more eloquent than any word. When used with intention and awareness, silence creates an energy field where the other person feels heard and accompanied, facilitating openness and emotional connection. This wordless space can leave a deep impression, an imprint installed in the other's mental and emotional field, fostering constant presence. Emotional presence, for its part, refers to the ability to be authentically present with our emotions and those of others, transmitting sincere and receptive energy. This presence manifests in the gaze, tone of voice, breathing, and body posture, forming a nonverbal language that communicates empathy, security, and closeness. When our emotional presence is strong and authentic, we create an energy field that invites connection and can keep our imprint active in the other's mind. The person feels seen, valued, and understood, which facilitates their thoughts and affection remaining linked to our image. To achieve this integral synergy in communication, it is necessary to work on energy coherence techniques. These techniques seek to align our words, emotions, and body, creating a unified message that resonates with strength and authenticity. Energy coherence begins with self-knowledge, that is, the ability to recognize and accept our real emotions without denying or disguising what we feel. Only when we are honest with ourselves can we express that truth congruently and genuinely. From this self-knowledge, we must learn to express our emotions consciously and controlledly, allowing them to manifest through our body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions coherently with what we say. This congruence between inner and outer generates trust and facilitates the creation of a stable and attractive energy field. A useful technique to achieve this coherence is conscious breathing. By becoming aware of and regulating our breathing, we can balance our emotional and physical state, reflected in a more relaxed body expression and a firmer, calmer voice. Breathing acts as a bridge connecting mind, emotion, and body, allowing the message we transmit to be integral and coherent. Another practice consists of observing and adjusting our body posture. Adopting an open posture, with relaxed shoulders and an upright head, not only projects security, but also influences our own internal state, reinforcing emotional congruence. Posture sends clear signals to the brain and environment about our disposition and confidence, which translate into a stronger energetic imprint. Eye contact is another fundamental element. Looking into someone's eyes sincerely and without avoidance communicates attention and respect, strengthening the bond and emotional presence. Proper eye contact favors neurosynchronization between sender and receiver, enhancing the resonance of the message and the imprint we leave. Additionally, facial expression should reflect the genuine emotions accompanying the words. Smiling when there is joy, showing seriousness when discussing something important, or displaying empathy with a compassionate gaze all contribute to making the message complete and coherent. This harmony between emotions and expression amplifies the energy we project. The voice, finally, is a key instrument in this energetic coherence. Its tone, volume, rhythm, and modulation must align with the content and emotion we want to convey. A firm yet soft voice, with well-placed pauses, can transmit confidence and calm, while an agitated or monotone voice may cause disconnection. By practicing and perfecting these techniques, we create a comprehensive form of communication that goes beyond words, generating a profound impact on those who listen and perceive. This synergistic communication establishes an energy field that facilitates authentic connection and sustained mental presence. Ultimately, when we achieve alignment between our words, emotions, and body, we create a complete and coherent experience for the other person, which remains engraved in their mind and heart as a powerful and lasting imprint. This energetic coherence is a foundation for 3 words to have the maximum effect, for we do not only pronounce them, but live and express them fully, creating an authentic and resonant channel that activates connection at deep levels. One of the most fascinating and least understood phenomena in human relationships is the ability to maintain mental and emotional presence in another person even when there is no physical contact or direct verbal communication. This phenomenon is called mental resonance and represents the continuity of connection at an energetic and conscious level, where thoughts and emotions remain active and in tune from a distance. Mental resonance is possible thanks to the dynamic and intertwined nature of our consciousness, a concept that Jacobo Grinberg explored deeply. According to his theory, consciousness is not limited to the physical boundaries of the body, but extends into a shared field that connects our minds, allowing energetic and mental influence to travel beyond time and space. Sustaining the thought of one person in you, and vice versa, involves cultivating an energetic connection that endures in the absence of external stimuli. This connection strengthens when our intentions are clear, our emotions genuine, and our internal state stable and positive. To achieve this, it is essential to learn to project intention without the need for words, using the mind and body as vehicles of energy and communication. Meditative and visualization practices offer valuable tools to develop this ability, allowing us to focus our attention and direct our energy consciously. One of the most effective exercises consists of focus meditation, where the mental image of the person with whom we want to maintain resonance is chosen. With closed eyes and calm breathing, we visualize that person in a luminous and serene space, while projecting a flow of warm and positive energy toward them. The connection is felt as an invisible thread that links both energy fields, keeping the mental presence alive. During this practice, it is essential to maintain an attitude of acceptance and detachment, allowing the connection to flow without clinging or forcing. The intention must be clear and loving, without expectations, which facilitates that the resonance establishes and sustains over time. Another exercise involves the mental repetition of a phrase or mantra that encapsulates the intention of connection, such as, "I am present in your mind with love and trust." Repeating this affirmation calmly and with concentration strengthens the energetic and mental channel, facilitating that the presence endures beyond meditation. Creative visualization can also incorporate future scenarios where a positive interaction or a meaningful encounter is imagined. This mental anticipation prepares the ground or energy to flow more naturally and for the imprint we leave to be deeper and more lasting. Moreover, the body plays an essential role in this wordless projection. Practicing postural alignment and conscious breathing while performing meditation or visualization enhances energetic coherence, making the implicit message more potent and effective. These exercises, inspired by ancestral practices of mindfulness, meditation, and energetic work, connect us with the innate capacity of our mind to influence and sustain relationships on subtler levels, complementing verbal communication and visible gestures. It is important to reflect on the impact of what is not said. In human communication, explicit words often represent only a small part of the total message. What is omitted, what remains silent, unexpressed emotions, and tacit intentions are also stored in the shared energy field and leave a powerful imprint. The unspoken can generate expectations, fears, or desires that influence the mind and heart of the other person, sometimes more intensely than the spoken words. Therefore, being aware of what we communicate, even in our silence, is essential to maintaining healthy and authentic relationships. This silent space can also become a refuge of deep connection when it is filled with presence, acceptance, and positive energy. In these moments, the simple act of being present without the need for words can strengthen mental and emotional resonance, leaving a lasting imprint. In conclusion, mental resonance is a manifestation of the energetic and conscious connection between two people that transcend conventional communication. Through meditative and visualization practices, we can learn to project intention without words, strengthening presence and bond at a distance. Recognizing that what is unsaid also remains invites us to cultivate awareness and responsibility in all forms of communication, visible and invisible. Thus, we can build deeper, authentic, and sustained relationships over time, where mental presence remains alive and meaningful, even in absence. Human relationships are one of the most complex and wonderful aspects of our existence. They intertwine not only words and actions, but also thoughts, emotions, intentions, and energies that escape the visible. Throughout this journey, we have explored how the mind and heart can influence each other at a deep level, beyond appearances and superficial words. We have discovered that the mental emotional power each person possesses is a formidable force capable of creating authentic, lasting, and meaningful connections. This power manifests in the ability to project sincere intentions, to communicate coherently between what we feel and express, and to leave an energetic imprint that remains active in the mind and heart of the other. It is based on reflective awareness, emotional congruence, and the ability to use both verbal and nonverbal language with authenticity and care. What is said, and perhaps even more importantly, what is felt and transmitted without words, constructs the invisible fabric that supports the most valuable relationships. The 3 words we have studied, "I trust you," are a clear example of how a simple expression can contain a deep and powerful message when spoken with intention and congruence. But beyond the phrase, the real impact lies in the energy and presence with which they are said at the right moment and with sincerity born from the heart. This set of elements forms a communication channel that can transform a relationship, generate trust, and maintain a constant mental presence that nurtures the bond. In this context, the legacy of Jacobo Grinberg stands as a beacon of light and knowledge. His revolutionary work on consciousness, the neuronal field, and intersubjective connection offers us a scientific and spiritual framework to understand how our minds intertwine and how we can positively influence relationships. Grinberg was not only a pioneer in neuroscience, but also an explorer of the energetic and spiritual dimension of human experience, integrating knowledge many consider disparate. His theory of synergy invites us to consider reality as a dynamic web where all parts interact in harmony to create a greater whole. In human communication, this translates into need to align words, emotions, body, and presence to generate true and resonant connections. Grinberg taught us that consciousness is not an isolated phenomenon, but a shared field, a space where energetic and mental interaction creates experiences that transcend the individual. This knowledge urges us to take conscious responsibility for how we use our energy and words in relationships. It invites us to cultivate authenticity, mindfulness, and clear intention to leave positive imprints that strengthen bonds and promote mutual well-being. In a world where superficiality and disconnection often prevail, Grinberg's legacy reminds us of the transformative power of consciousness and deep connection. Reflecting on mental-emotional power in relationships also leads us to value the importance of self-care and personal development. Only when we are in harmony with ourselves can we offer coherent and attractive energy to others. Internal congruence becomes a foundation for effective communication, and for our presence to leave an authentic and lasting imprint. Additionally, understanding the energetic and mental nature of relationships allows us to handle challenges and conflicts with greater wisdom. Knowing that our emotions and thoughts influence the shared field gives us tools to resolve differences calmly and empathetically, fostering a space where trust and openness can grow. The impact of mental resonance and energetic imprint goes beyond the immediate. These dynamics shape the quality and depth of long-term relationships. Therefore, it is essential to cultivate habits that reinforce our positive energy, practice conscious and honest communication, and work on coherence between what we feel and express. This knowledge not only enriches our personal relationships, but also professional and social ones, since authentic connection is the foundation of every meaningful human interaction. By applying these principles, we can create more harmonious and collaborative environments where respect and trust are fundamental pillars. Finally, it is important to remember that every person possesses the innate capacity to influence and connect on deep levels. It is not about magical techniques or superficial tricks, but about internal and conscious work that allows us to unfold our potential to love, understand, and support others authentically. I invite you to continue exploring and practicing this knowledge in your daily life, allowing mental-emotional power to manifest in every encounter and letting Jacobo Grinberg's legacy inspire you to create true and transformative connections. If this video has brought you value, I would greatly appreciate it if you like it, share it with someone who may benefit, and subscribe if you haven't already. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss upcoming content that will help you keep growing and deepening your understanding of consciousness and relationships. Also, Leave me a comment with the word present if you want to receive a special greeting in the next video. I love reading your comments and knowing that this community grows and strengthens thanks to you. Thank you for joining me on this deep and meaningful journey. Remember, the power to transform your relationships lies within you, in the conscious and loving way you connect with others. See you in the next video.